Happy Easter, everyone. We're The Forge, and this is our Reader's Theater entitled One Choice, One Tree. Hope you enjoy.
In the beginning was the Word.
Word.
And the Word was
With God.
And the Word
Was God.
He was with God
In the beginning.
The earth was void and formless.
Darkness covered the deep.
God spoke and creation expanded at the sound of his voice.
The dust heard his whispers and began to
Shift.
Man was formed and breath filled his lungs.
He was placed in the garden.
His purpose had begun.
No helper was found suitable.
As Adam realized his need.
A deep sleep covered him as
God
made Eve.
The garden was filled with delight.
There was no barrier between what God had created.
And no distance between creation and him.
Boundaries were set that God clearly laid.
Freedom was everywhere.
But one tree was forbidden.
So a choice had to be given.
One choice, one tree.
It was there in that garden.
Where it began with a question.
As doubt crept in,
From the author of deception.
Did God really say? And with one bite,
The unraveling began.
Perfect unity was broken with the
fall of man.
all of creation held its breath.
Until footsteps echoed in the dust.
as redemption moved in the cool of the day.
God's voice began searching for those he had made.
Restoration hung between every breath.
As the separation of sin brought deception and
Death.
So a sacrifice was made.
The first payment for sin.
Their shame was covered by the blood that was shed.
But the separation remained.
There was distance now.
There was pain in her labor.
There was sweat in his brow.
the intimacy was
Broken.
The barriers were built.
Sin prevented them from standing in his holy space.
This garden was no longer safe.
So things had to change.
This garden was now guarded.
By swords of flame.
God still desired a relationship with man.
But a bridge was needed to cover the span.
Sin crept around every corner, enslaving generations to come.
Murder.
Pride.
Selfishness.
Lost all this from the ones who were formed from the dust.
Their sin kept growing.
Further distancing them from the Father.
So the sacrifices continued.
From doorways to altars.
Something had to die.
To pay for our sin.
But the blood had to be shed
Again and again.
His presence was confined to the Holy of Holies.
A place they couldn't enter.
Only the high priest could go in.
As they waited for the Messiah to break the barrier again.
They thought he was coming in power and war.
How confused they must have been.
When a baby was born,
They thought he would rule in places of authority.
But instead he served.
In the shadows of obscurity.
They thought he would only dine with the Pharisees.
But he humbled himself.
And broke bread for the least of these.
He cared for the nameless and healed the
Untouchable.
untouchable. He sought out the places of those deemed
Unlovable.
unlovable.
His infinite power and grace weaves throughout time and space.
He fulfilled every prophecy.
not one left out of place.
His outstretched hands reached from
Garden to garden.
The seed of redemption planted in Eden.
Bore fruit in Gethsemane as his brow began bleeding.
With the cross set before him.
There was a choice to be made.
One choice, one tree.
Let this cup pass from me if there's another way.
As he whispered to the Father.
But still chose to obey.
seamlessly weaving redemption's thread.
As the crown of thorns was placed on his head.
A holy God who was without sin.
Felt every lash that ripped off his skin.
He was beaten beyond recognition.
Experienced the cruelty of the crucifixion.
The details were undeniable.
Even his timing was proof.
The lamb's blood was poured out.
And the sacrifice was true.
Darkness covered the day.
The Father turned his face away.
As the Son of God bore the weight of our sin.
The redemption story had come to a head.
And Jesus said,
It is finished.
The earth shook in response to the Creator's death.
As the veil was torn with his final breath.
The Creator that had walked in the cool of the day.
had to be carried from Calvary to the grave.
Creation was quiet once again.
As he was laid to rest in the tomb for our sin.
They thought they had won with his final breath.
How delighted they must have been.
When they put him to rest.
They thought it was over when he said it was finished.
How excited they must have been.
When all hope seemed diminished.
They thought the tomb was safe with soldiers and a stone.
How confused they must have been when they were no longer alone.
As lightning moved towards them in linen like snow.
Creation wasn't afraid to put on a show.
As his creator was
Waking,
the ground started
shaking.
The soldiers collapsed.
And the angel declared,
Do not be afraid.
He's no longer there.
Jesus had conquered death, hell, and the grave.
No continual sacrifices would need to be made.
His death on the cross means the debt had been paid.
And now by his resurrection, you and I can be saved.
Jesus' blood paved the way to hear his footsteps again.
Through Christ, we can be
Reunited with him.
That relationship that God desired with man.
Jesus stepped in as a bridge image to cover the span.
As in Adam, all will die.
So in Christ, all can be made alive.
But there's a decision to be made.
So what's it gonna be?
You have
One choice.
because of one
tree. A choice that determines your eternity.
The choice is yours.
But the time to make it is now.
Will you leave behind the old you?
Will you seek his face?
Will you leave your grave behind?
And step in to his grace. Thank you.